Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time from Mark. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, tier lists, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1997 film Suicide Teams. Now, this is a time when a lot of people try to be Quentin Tarantino, so you see a lot more of these type of films trying to be a bit of Reservoir Dogs among, Pulp Fiction, trying to be those type of movies. So you had like 2 Days in the Valley, you had this film, a few others. It's directed by a guy named Peter O'Fallon, which I don't know if this guy did much. This film came out, it did nothing. It was a complete bomb. Critics were not big fans of it. They called it a Tarantino knockoff. I guess you say it got a bit of a cult following. I would say the film was a decent time, at the very least for the cast. Because the setup is, you have Christopher Walken, of course, who was in Pulp Fiction, but he was been in True Romance, Teens of New York, The Deer Hunter, The Dead Zone. Great actor. He's a former mob guy, mob boss. His bodyguard and driver, played by Denis Leary from Judgment Night and The Ref and quite a few other stuff. Stand-up comedian. He has dropped him off at this bar. He'll pick him up later. And while Walt is there, he meets with a couple younger guys who invites him to a drink. And, oh yeah, I knew your father, and this and that. They get to talking. Hey, why don't you come out with us? Oh, sure. It'll be our night to howl. It's been a long time since I've gone out with the boys. One leads to another. Walter gets kidnapped, chloroformed, and next thing he knows, he's tied up at this place. His finger has been cut off, and apparently he's been kidnapped to use his connections to get $2 million for these kidnappers who has one of the guys' sister. And throughout it, it's them trying to figure out the situation, realizing they didn't plan things out like they should have, while both Denis Leary and Christopher Walken's attorney, played by Cliff DeYoung, which he's been in stuff. He was in The Substitute. He was in this 80s film called Pulse. He's been in quite a few stuff. They try to figure this out, try to figure out who the kidnappers are, while Christopher Walken is playing mind games against these guys, and maybe in a way get them to turn on each other. Now, I mentioned the cast. I mentioned Christopher Walken and Denis Leary. They both do a great job. The group that has Walken kidnapped, you got Patrick Flanery, which he was in this action film, I forget the name of it, Lou Diamond Phillips' Lone Hero, I think that's what it was called. Lou Diamond Phillips was the bad guy. Patrick Flanery, he was like part of this cowboy stunt show where they go out in outfits and pretend to have shootouts, but then this town is overrun by Lou Diamond Phillips and his biker gang. Lou gets caught, put in jail, the bad guys are coming back, and now Sean has to be a real hero. I remember that actually being a pretty fun action movie. Again, I think that's what it was called. He was also on the Dead Zone TV show. He was in one of the later Saw films. I think Saw 7. He was in that one. The final chapter. That wasn't final, because there was like 3 more after that. But you also have Henry Thomas. That's the guy whose sister's been kidnapped. Henry Thomas, of course, was the little kid in E.T. He was also in Psycho 4. Mohr. He was on a TV show called Action that didn't last too long. He was on SNL for a bit. Adventures of Pluto Nash. He's done quite a few movies and stand-up. I know he has a podcast. Jeremy Sisto. He was in the first Wrong Turn movie. Let's see. Johnny Galecki. He was on the TV show Roseanne, but he's probably more well known now as one of the stars of The Big Bang Theory, which honestly I've never seen an episode of that, even though that went on for like 13 seasons. I've never seen an episode of The Big Bang Theory. But I know he got even more fame, recognition because of that. Brad Garrett is one of the kidnappers. Brad Garrett, of course, from Everybody Loves Raymond. So it's got a pretty good cast in this. And the writing's not as strong as a Tarantino film, but the plot is intriguing to see what's going to happen next, because it is a pretty stupid idea to, okay, the mob guy he's a former mob guy, but he's still part of the mob, he still has connections, and you're still going to kidnap him and cut his finger off to get money out of him to pay for this other thing. What do you think is going to happen afterward? Let's say this plan worked out perfectly for you. Then what? You would let him go and he would forget about this? He would know your faces. He would maybe gather a name or two. He would use his connections to hunt you all down. And that's what, Johnny Galecki, he actually had the opinion I had. Because it's his parents' house. He didn't know what was going on. He shows up. He thinks they're going to play poker. He's like, what the hell? I thought we were playing poker. What's this? I will say Johnny Galecki's acting is not the most finite acting. But I did not mind him, and I did not mind his character. But his acting was not top-notch, I will say that. Just certain lines of delivery, I wouldn't say they didn't feel natural, but I liked him because, number one, I liked the actor. Number two, what he was saying kind of made the most sense. Like, I think as he puts it, "Hi, I'm a dead guy. Thanks, fellas. You know who he is? You know what he's going to do after this? Yeah, you look at a dead man. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm a dead guy." But yeah, Henry Thomas, most of the film he's looking nervous, like this wasn't such a good idea. Jeremy Sisto, he's like the doctor of the group. You get a bit that he takes drugs, and Walken calls him on it, but then nothing ever comes of that. That Jeremy Sisto takes drugs. You think that, other than Walken telling him about it, if you think that's going to come up of anything where he's taking too much, or that's going to cast suspicion that maybe he has a drug problem, he needs the money. Because Walker comes up with the idea that there was an inside man, and the first guy he tells is Jeremy Sisto. And Sisto's so paranoid about it. But at the same time, not to the point of, oh, it must be the drugs affecting him. It's just more to the point of, that's how anyone would think if someone like Christopher Walken tells you that. And just my point is the whole drug thing that he uses needles to fill himself up, so to speak. Nothing really comes of that to fruition. I thought a lot more would be built up on that, but that kind of gets forgotten. Denis Leary, I do think he's quite funny. He's not given a whole lot to do. A lot of the dialogue, from what I heard or what I read, a lot of it is ad-libbed. A lot of it is kind of him having these boots made of stingray, and people keep saying, so they're fish boots. No, they're not just fish boots, they're just... So, that's funny, but it becomes kind of a tired joke after the fourth time it's mentioned. And I do think you could have just combined his character with the Cliff DeYoung character, the attorney. I don't think you needed both. You could just had Denis Leary go around, find information, as well as what he's doing, beating a few people up. That could have been the same guy, and have it played by Denis Leary. You did not need both Denis Leary and Cliff DeYoung. They could have been the same guy. And give Denis Leary a bit more to do. But again, Denis Leary's rants are funny. Like, you know what? Don't even talk to me about footwear. Not even fucking socks. All right? Or you pay $1,500 for shoes. You sound like my fucking wife. You sound like her. I would say probably one of my favorite scenes involves him, where he tries to get information. He knows this girl, and he realizes she's being beat up by her old man. And I don't think this is ad-libbed. I think this is part of the script where Des Leary Purvis talks about his own old man and about this Mickey Mantle bat and how it's the gene and his mom was being abused and one night it was really bad and I took the Mickey Mantle bat and I tattooed him right across his face, and then afterward the lights seemed to be a bit more on later on during the nighttime, and pretty much saying if I know that you hurt this girl, me and Mr. Man are going to pay you a visit. So the guy rebuffs him, and so Des Leary's going to do so. He gets a toaster and beats the shit out of the guy. So I would say that was one of my favorite scenes. That's what I mean. It doesn't have to be Denis Leary ad-lib and like, okay, that was more written. Do you have more stuff like that to do when he's going around searching for this? Have be Denis Leary going off, having more of this different types of conversation, find information of these kidnappers, and then get rid of Cliff the Young attorney character. You don't need him. I like the actor, you just didn't need him. And then we go back to where Walken is tied up. Christopher Walken does a nice job showcasing that while he's tied up, you can definitely tell he's still in control. And the way he stares people down, the way he kind of talks and because is friendly with them and gets nuggets of information out of them. As he puts it, winning and losing, it's about sizing up the other guy. And haven't had to do that in a while, but you give me some time. And he does. He's able to size some of these people up. Now, I will say the director, you tell that he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, which he had not. Like early on when they chloroform Christopher Walken and the car's going crazy, that's a very poorly edited scene. Because like they're in the tunnel, the car's swerving, then it cuts to this, and it cuts to this, and it's twirling around, and it was confusing. It was not the most well shot, definitely not the most well edited scene. It kind of clusterfuck is the word I think of during that whole we're here, then the car turns and here, and then the truck's coming, and very clusterfuck. Maybe that's what the director's intention, but it was just more confusing than suspenseful. Same with, there's a bit where a cop comes by, and Johnny Galecki has to talk to him, and remember the password, the security password, and then moving Christopher Walken around to hide him. There's not a whole lot of suspense because the cop's not going to find him. With the amount of people they have around here that things are going to be okay. Like, the director just didn't really showcase a lot of suspense during that scene. I also thought it was kind of weird. There's this one scene where there's a flashback to this girl who was saved by Christopher Walken. I mean, I don't know if you needed this flashback. I just also to show just how kind of noble but dangerous Walken's character is. So I guess it's fine, the intention. It just made me laugh because he's got like Tommy Wiseau hair. And that's a bit weird to see on Walken in this flashback. He saves his girl from the pimp and later on shoots the pimp. And the music at times felt a bit, what's the phrase I'm thinking of? Try hard. Because there are times where these violins are playing, and it's like, I don't think it really fits. Like, you're trying to make this a lot more dramatic than it really is. And it just seemed like I was just trying a bit too hard. But we'll say, again, I liked the film because I liked the cast. I like seeing all these group of people together. Henry Thomas, I see him play a little bit of different type of character. Jay Mohr, I always did like Jay Mohr. He's a little bit more of the tough guy of the group who, understandably, is a lot more cautious against Walken's character. As I said, it's great to see Christopher Walken and Denis Leary in there. It's nice to see Christopher Walken. You could tell he's the smartest guy in this group. Turn the tables mentally on these guys. I'm going to die of boredom. What we going to do here? I can't do Walken. And then they start playing cards. And then cast his suspicion. Laute, you told the story that Jay Mohr owed this money. Well, how did he pay that off? And all this other stuff. So, again, I wouldn't say there was a lot of suspense. I wish Denis Leary had a little bit more to do. I wish that the music would have calmed down a bit. Maybe had a little bit more of a Tony Scott, like what he did with True Romance. Maybe if he directed this, he could have brought a bit more of that grit, it factor. Or maybe a bit of a punch-up from Tarantino himself, since it was to be like Tarantino. But this was still, I thought, a pretty decent one. Like I said, mainly for the cast. It's kind of, again, stupid, but interesting idea to have a mob guy tied up. And I guess aside from the cop tied up in Reservoir Dogs, here you have this former mob guy tied up. So it does bring a bit of intrigue of what's going to happen next. But like I said, also, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? What was the best case scenario for this? But there are some nice quirky bits of humor. I mean, Brad Garrett and the other guy who are waiting for the phone call, they have this exchange about changing the remote, and one guy threatens the other guy with a gun to change the channel. Bit of a little bit of a funny, quirky scene. The ending, spoiler alert for the ending. Spoilers, starting now. He kind of is talking down. We get that Walken figures that Sean Patrick Flanery is the inside man, and he says sorry, but then Henry Thomas speaks up and goes, "It was my fault because I owed like $50,000." But then for some reason, all of a sudden, it's $2 million, and there's no way I could pay it, and Sean was just helping me out, and then you see how other people are pissed off at Henry Thomas. Even Jonathan Galecki, he's getting pissed off. That was nice to see. That's probably his. I mean, again, I like him, but his most natural was like him getting pissed off. It's like, and Jay Mohr shows a bit of emotion. I thought that was nice to see because it's rare to see Jay Mohr. Like, he's more of just a cocky, wise ass guy. So to see him show a little bit more emotion, that was a nice change of pace. Anyway, Denis Leary gets there. They let Christopher Walken go. Walken gives his word. Henry Thomas goes to the hospital. His sister isn't there. He's freaking out. Jonathan Galecki, Jay Mohr. Jay Mohr's wounded, but he'll be fine. Jeremy Sisto, they're fine. Come to find out that Henry Thomas' sister, this was all a ploy all along. She was never kidnapped. She was working with Sean Patrick Flanery, and then they were working with Brad Garrett saying, "Hey, there's a way to get $2 million. We'll give you $1 million, and fuck everybody over." So Brad Dare and his buddy get killed by Denis Leary and Walken. They find where Sean Patrick Flanery and Henry Thomas' sister are on a boat. And the reason I'm explaining that is it's interesting that the alternate endings for this, that apparently the way the director first shot it is that they're ready to shoot these two, then they don't, and they let them go. I don't, because I haven't seen the alternate, because I don't have the film. I watched it online. I could not find the alternate endings, but I did read up on it, and I do remember vaguely seeing these back on the day. Because maybe I had a DVD back in the day, but it got lost in the move and stuff. That they shot that scene, and the test audience didn't like it. I think there's like maybe two where they let them go, but they keep the money, or they let them go and but they take the money. But the audience, the test audience, didn't like it. They felt that Sean and Henry Thomas' sister needed retribution for how they fucked people over. So you could tell with that information when you watch the film that the way it ended was not its intention because of how weird it looks. Because Denis Leary is aiming, and then there's like an up close of Sean's eye, and up close of her eye, her face, and then you just hear a gunshot, and you see the filter turn to red on the screen, and then there's Denis and Walken on the boat, and it's a wide shot, but you don't see any dead bodies lying there, which you would think there would be if they've been shot. Like I did, the way it's done, you could tell that that was not his intention. So the director, just they didn't have the money to shoot it again, so they just had to re-edit it the way they could, and that's why it comes off as a bit funky. But there you go. I mean, it doesn't bother me that those two got killed because they did fuck over people for their own money. For their own greed, I should say. And they are the ones that created the situation. So, it would make less sense if the mob guy didn't kill anybody. Oh, I'm sorry, former mob guy. I mean, he's got to kill somebody. I mean, I get that he's turned a new leaf, but it's like, come on, there's got to be somebody. Someone's got to pay. But it's too bad that they didn't shoot that the first time. Because like I said, it's a little bit weird, but again, it's how they had to hide it with editing. They had to change a whole scene just by doing that. So, if he couldn't shoot it, the director did what he could. But yeah, it does have a little bit of an off feeling to it. So I do like Suicide Teens. To repeat myself, I do kind of wish it was in the hands of a bit of a stronger writer-director. I think there's even more that could have been made out of it. But as is, like I said, if you like the cast, if the cast intrigues you, it's definitely worth at least one watch. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.